Two civilians wounded in Saudi raids in Taiz. With Saudi airstrikes on several Yemeni governorates. Two deaths due to the diphtheria breakout in Hudaida. Good evening and welcome to Yemen Today's News. I'm Ali Nasr al-Khamri. Two people were injured in Saudi airstrikes on Taiz governorate southwest of Yemen. According to local media reports, the Saudi warplanes targeted a vehicle was in its way to distribute food materials in a Salw district, leaving two wounded. The Saudi warplanes also waged three other airstrikes on Haifan district. Earlier, the Saudi jets made several airstrikes on Muka and Mawza districts. The Saudi warplanes resumed their historical air raids on Khoka district of Hudaida governorate for the third day in a row. Local sources confirmed that the Saudi fighters hit Mawshaj area with an airstrike amid heavy flying over the district. The new Saudi attacks came 2 days after Saudi war crime in the same area and in order to prevent any rescuing efforts there. The Saudi war jets committed two war crimes in the area, left at least 11 dead by targeting two vehicles in Mawshaj. The Saudi aircraft continued its terrorist attacks on Marib governorate east of Yemen. Local sources reported that the Saudi jets waged three airstrikes on Harib al-Qaramish and Sarwah districts, along with continuous flights. The new Saudi raids on Harib al-Qaramish and Sarwah came hours of similar attacks in the same areas. The Saudi-based armed groups waged also heavy bombardment on private properties in Sarwah district. In Sada governorate, new Saudi air raids were made by Saudi air and land forces. The Saudi warplanes hit several areas of Baqam district with three airstrikes. In other development, the Saudi jet fighters hit Al-Harira area and the main road of Kitaf district east of Sada. Earlier, the Saudi warplanes waged several airstrikes on Sada in conjunction with artillery and rockets attacks on many bordering districts west of the governorate. The Saudi aircraft waged new aerial attacks on Nehm district of Sana'a governorate. Local sources confirmed that the Saudi warplanes have waged at least 5 airstrikes on different areas in the district, one of which has destroyed a house in Ramada area. Earlier, the enemy's jets have targeted Bani Ma'sar area with heavy airstrike, as well as hitting Arisha valley of Al-Hanashat area with another heavy raid. The Saudi war jets carry out new attacks on Shabwa governorate south of Yemen. According to local sources, the Saudi war jets hit Asailan district amid intensive flight. The Saudi raids come in support of the Saudi-backed terrorist groups trying to take over the governorate. In Hajjah, new Saudi raids were made against the bordering areas. Local sources say that the Saudi warplanes hit Harab and Midi districts with at least 10 air raids. Earlier, the Saudi warplanes have hit the same areas with 6 airstrikes. The new attacks come within the series of the aerial bombardment that the Saudi-led war jets wage against these two bordering districts on daily basis. Humanitarian flights resumed to Sana'a International Airport after it was suspended on November 6th due to the closure of all Yemeni ports and the destruction of the maritime guidance system at the airport by Saudi attacks. The first flight arrived today to the airport belonged to the International Committee of the Red Cross and was carrying humanitarian aid and a number of ICRC staff. On the other hand, a Russian plane has arrived carrying the new diplomatic crew of the Russian embassy in Sana'a. The Saudi-led coalition still prevents seafaring flights for Yemenis where tens of thousands of Yemeni patients cannot travel abroad for treatment. On Tuesday, United Nations spokesman Farhan Haq said the Saudi-led coalition has stopped 32 scheduled humanitarian flights from going to Yemen since imposing a blockade on the country. It's worth mentioning that at least 10,000 people have died in Yemen as a result of the Saudi-led coalition's restriction on airspace and closure of Sana'a airport. Diphtheria deaths cases have recorded by local medical authorities in Hodeidah Governorate. According to Dr. Khalid Ahmed Suhail, the head of the Thawra General Hospital, the number of deaths rose to 2 cases. He also pointed out that at least 12 other cases have been recorded in Hodeidah during the last few days, including 7 cases from one family. He appealed to international organizations concerned with health issues to speed up the work to provide assistance to curb the spread of the epidemic, which is increasing in the winter, especially in light of the current situation and the acute shortage of medicines and medical supplies as a result of the aggression and siege. Saudi regime committed horrible crimes against Yemenis, leaving thousands of deaths and displacing millions out of their homes due to the heavy bombardments on their residential areas. Here is a story of a family that left their house after the Saudi warplanes destroyed it.
They came from Midi to the capital city of Sana'a after being forced by the Saudi bombardment that targeted civilians and residential areas to finally flee their homes away from death, to find themselves without shelter and food, sleeping on the ground and blanketing with nothing. We came from Midi to Sana'a after our house being bombed by the Saudi warplanes and after we saw the dead bodies in front of us. So we fled. We escaped from the death. Khalid, who was forced to leave his house along with his children, came after seeing the corpses of their relatives scattered here and there in front of their eyes due to the arbitrary Saudi missiles. We flee to Sana'a, but here we have nothing. We are without shelter, or money, or even food. Sana'a is his daughter, and is the girl who tells the story of thousands of Yemeni children who were displaced due to the aggression deeds, which deprived them from the right to live in peace. And here today, she is with her siblings, Sabah and Hassan, waiting for a glimpse of hope to restore their smile and lost childhood due to the aggression, and waiting for those who may fill their hunger and guarantee their right to live. We used to have a house, and my husband was an employee with a salary, but now we have nothing. Between the displacement and poverty, Hassan's mother put her hand on her cheek, looking at her family and at the unknown future waiting for them. We ask the charity people, the nice people, to give us some food or anything to eat, or at least to give us a room to live in. The story of Khalid and his family, like thousands of other stories of displaced people who left their homes because of the brutality of the aggression and the crimes that were stripped of human values and ethics of war, killing and displacing millions of Yemenis without mercy.
Saudi unjust war and siege caused displacement for millions of Yemeni families after shelling their houses. So the Executive Department for Displaced, supervised by the Cabinet General Secretariat, organized consultative workshop to discuss the difficulties and challenges that meet the displaced persons. More in the following report.
The Saudi-led coalition caused in displacement millions of Yemeni civilians due to Saudi shelling on civilians' houses to move them to safe places to live in. Saudi enemies since 3 years caused miseries and sufferings for many Yemeni families due to bombardment of their homes to oblige them to obligatory displacement to other places. In order to reduce suffering of the displaced family, the Executive Department for the Displaced, supervised by General Secretariat for the Cabinet, organized workshop to discuss the difficulties and challenges faced by the displaced and finding the suggested solution during the continuation of Saudi aggression on Yemen.
3 مليون وقرابة 300 About 3,300,000 displaced in Yemen. This great number led to worsening the living and humanitarian situation, especially their needs for food and to live in houses and the other necessary needs.
More than 3 million persons obliged to displacement from their houses that exposed to heavy shelling by Saudi warplanes.
The government exerted great efforts to reduce the displaced suffering, despite of the continuous shelling, which led to destruction the infrastructure in Yemen and everything, even the displaced camps exposed to Saudi bombardment.
Shortage of the humanitarian assistance presented by the international organizations are not enough to cover all humanitarian needs for the displaced people during the humanitarian catastrophe brought by Saudi unjust war against Yemen. This shortage in the assistance is one of the outstanding challenges in front of the international and humanitarian organizations to provide the necessary needs for displaced people.
The consultative workshop to unify the efforts for the governmental sides to put the necessary proposals to reduce the suffering of the living situation of the displaced people.
Since the beginning of Saudi aggression in Yemen, many Yemeni families obliged to obligatory displacement due to Saudi aggression targeted their houses. Under the shameful silence of the United Nations and the connivance of the international community that insists on to turn a blind eye on such atrocities and encourage Saudi regime to keep on in its aggression on 30 million people.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, back to today's headlines. 2 civilians wounded in Saudi raids in Taiz. Wave of Saudi airstrikes on several Yemeni governorates. 2 deaths due to diphtheria breakout in Hodeidah. That's all today. Thanks for watching and goodbye.